Ho ho!
Hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode in the series of things you may have missed in The Witcher 3.
Medallion's humming.
I will go over a bunch of mostly random details instead of narrowing them down to a certain area or character. You guys didn't seem to mind it in the previous video, so why not try it again? Speaking of that, if you've missed any of the previous episodes from the series, I've got a rather massive playlist that might pique your interest down in the description. Okay, without further delay, let me warn you that this video will contain all kinds of Witcher spoilers, and let's begin. At number 1, we start with Keira Metz.
Oh, Geralt. Shame you didn't talk that way when we
More specifically with finding the location of her house. There are several ways of doing it with minor differences, such as finding it yourself, overhearing information about it from the locals, or asking this fine gentleman about it.
We've not had a witch, shaman, nor cunning wench in ages.
The problem with him, however, is that you will require either money to bribe him.
Would a few crowns refresh your memory?
Oh, well, if that's how you put it.
Or skill points in the Axii Delusion.
You sure? Give it a think.
Now, what some of you may have missed, since you likely had both the money and the Axii, is that there's a third way of getting information from him.
You're hard at work. Won't interrupt.
If you end the conversation and exit the quest area marked on your map, sometime later, not too long, just meditate a bit and wait a moment, he will actually head somewhere. If you approach him, he will see you and stop moving, but if you are a good distance away from him, he will resume the journey, and it turns out that he's headed straight to Keira's. Along the way though, he will get in trouble with some monsters, which, as far as I can tell, cannot actually kill him, but he will cower until they're dealt with, and once they are, a brief but unique cutscene will play where he can reveal the location as a sign of thanks for saving him.
Thank ye. Was a hair away from giving up my soul out of fright itself.
Point me in the direction of your local witch's hut.
It wouldn't be right to refuse you after you saved my skin. Know the small pond near the village? Path leads off from it. Follow that till you come across a lone rock. Walk around that, then to the woods. Find the old cart. You're there.
Thanks.
It's just... don't harm her, sir. Word of your kind's reached these parts.
Now, this scenario is a little underdeveloped, I suppose, because the way he describes it makes it sound as though you haven't yet gone past the rock, and you have, but nevertheless, it's a cool little detail.
I can't believe we
Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that this one was actually brought to you by a viewer of mine called Jordan Gill, so thank you very much for sharing it.
Yen won't either when I tell her. Or Triss. Sorry, lost track of who you're currently obsessed with.
Alright, moving on to number 2 and the... what was it called? The Merry Widow contract. You know, the one with the talking hag?
Thief, skulls he stole, my skulls, ought to dig up his own.
And the grunting quest giver?
Child's dead.
Oh.
So, something curious happens a day or so after you finish this quest. Specifically, these two statues appear out of nowhere at the gates of the crypt, the same one where you fought the grave hag. I've been told by several viewers that they are a reference to the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who, which sadly I haven't watched, and those of you who have can probably share some more information about them, but here's what they do in the game. First off, they face your direction when you enter or exit the crypt. Geralt will even comment that it's strange.
Strange.
Second, their faces change. When you approach them, they have the friendly-looking ones, but if you move away from them, they swap to these evil expressions. And finally, after you play with them for a while, they will disappear entirely and never show up again. It's actually rather creepy. I wonder if they show up someplace else in the game. And another small but cool thing I'd like to add before I move on to number 3 is about the Witcher Wannabe quest, which once again takes place later on in the same location. So if you lie about the Witcher's custom of renouncing your trade...
Yeah? What's that?
Any Witcher needing a brother's aid must then bury his medallion in the earth. In doing so, he renounces his trade. Then he's got to work for the village elder for a year. You can take him there now.
Ooh, a Witcher's surely worth 2 ordinary laborers.
At least 2. Farewell.
You can actually find this Lambert cosplayer working the nearby farm after the quest is done. He still has his medallion on and he can't be interacted with, but still. Okay, next I'd like to bring up these 2 quests over here. First, we have a group of people who are being banned from entering the city.
Sir, show some mercy. We've not got nowhere to go. For us, it's Novigrad or death.
Had enough of you lot.
You can help them through Axi,
Let these people pass.
Yes, sir.
bribing,
King's a long way away, and your pay's probably meager. Sure we can't make a deal?
Mean to say you're looking to, purchase a one-time pass?
Exactly.
all fighting the Redanians.
Let him through, before I get angry.
Huh? That a threat? You'll not talk to me that way. Oh no! We're done! Get him!
But what you may have missed here is that if you help them, they give you the location of Witcher George's tomb, with the Griffin Skull gear.
Thank you. We got nowhere to go back to. Novigrad. That's a chance of a new life.
Stay off the roads. Liable to run into another patrol.
Shan't be taken like that again. We'll be as careful as hares in a field bared by winter. But you was cast in a different mould than us. More like the hero that lies in the tomb neath Crookback Hills. Tomb's in a cave in a hillside. Downwarren's at the foot of the hill. Folk say treasure inside's a sight to behold. Huge hoard. Might find something that suits you. Good luck.
Now, even though you will probably get there without ever doing this quest, it's still a nice connection.
Sorry, can't get involved. You're on your own.
Master! Sir!
Enough! Just gather up and go! Scram!
And the second one is where you meet these 3 people: a Redanian soldier, a scholar or a mage, and a merchant. What you may have missed here is one of the many outcomes of this quest.
They call me Rufus, and this here learned fellow is Theophile Maria Roscoe, and this is... sorry.
Manfred. I'm Manfred.
First off, if you refuse to introduce yourself, they will think you are a Nilfgaardian spy, and 2 of them will attack you.
Don't want to cause any trouble. Farewell to you.
Ha, told you. A spy.
Damn, maybe he is.
I'll not let a spy walk free. To arms, gentlemen!
Shit.
He's dead. You should go.
Alternatively, if you engage in small talk, eventually the Redanian soldier will accuse the merchant of being a Nilfgaardian spy, and a fight will erupt.
First you ask about the message I'm carrying. Now you say you're waiting for Nilfgaard to cross the Pontar. You better come with me. I know some people who'd want to talk to you.
You'll have to kill me first.
If needs must.
You can take the soldier's side or defend the merchant, and you can even stay neutral, in which case the soldier is the one who wins. Now, if the merchant dies, the Redanian finds Nilfgaardian florins in his purse, and takes that as confirmation that he was indeed a spy.
Sorry, not about to get involved.
I'll fucking manage on my own!
We're already dependent on the black ones.
Stay in formation! One Nilfgaardian mole less.
Can't actually know he was a spy.
Oh, he was. I know him on sight. Seen my share. On your way now, you're no use to us. Fucking neutrality. Fatherland needs to be defended. You'll choke to death on 3 pounds of steep. Ah, had it right. Purse full of Nilfgaardian florins.
But I'm not so sure about it. A decent spy will likely not carry a bag full of incriminating coin. It could simply be that he did business with the Nilfgaardians and they paid him in their local currency.
Leave him alone.
A Nilfgaardian spy in league with Foltest murderer. I'll take you both on.
Dog's bollocks.
I didn't want to kill him.
Might have thought of that beforehand.
Oh.
And as far as the mage, he always ends up surviving. And he was also suspicious of you if you didn't introduce yourself, so...
Indeed, it's rather suspicious.
Mighty suspicious. Best introduce yourself, mate. We don't like spies.
Maybe he's the real spy? And finally, the way to do the quest without anyone dying is to simply introduce yourself and then leave without engaging in any further dialogue.
Time I was on my way. Thanks for your hospitality.
Stay a while. Road's no hair. It won't run off.
If he's in a rush, let him go.
Take care, Master Witcher.
I suppose I should really make a missable quests video because there are quite a few which become unavailable if you pass by without doing them, or if you don't do them in a certain time of day, or before or after certain other quests. I've already made videos including plenty of those, but there are still a few I haven't mentioned, like the guy selling Fistek under the nose of the witch hunters, you know, the one you have to escort by the docks. He, for example, becomes unavailable after you burn down the witch hunter HQ with Triss.
Listen,
Shut your gob, ginger whore!
So I should probably make an entire video dedicated to just that in the near future. Tell me what you think about the idea. Okay, time for number 4. This one is about the Carnal Sins quest. Lots of details about that one actually. I've already made a handful of videos dedicated to it, but it turns out there's more. What I have for you today are a couple of bits that can be seen quite a while before you actually start the quest, and all of them foreshadow what's about to occur. The first thing is that you can visit the dwarven sculptors, or woodcarvers, while both of them are still alive. As you know, one of them ends up being a victim of the serial killer.
His genitals. We ought to inspect those.
And in fact, you can hear dialogue which suggests that his weakness for ample breasts will eventually lead to something bad.
Teats like full bellows begging to be squeezed.
Ach, Fabian, it's unhealthy this yen for wenches. It'll be your bean, I tell you.
And the second small detail here is brought to you once again by Mr. Alexander. I'd like to give big thanks to the man. He's been featured in 3 videos in a row now, and what he noticed is that patients of the Novigrad hospital, which has a rather creepy statue, or rather a statue casting a rather creepy shadow, but anyway, the patients will actually converse about the serial killer before you've ever started the quest.
They say another corpse is turned up. No eyes in its head, no heart in its breast.
what beast kills that way?
Only man's capable of that kind of cruelty.
Alright, at number 5, we have something that I've been planning on mentioning in a video for the longest time, about 2.5 years actually, since I first read the books in preparation for season 1 of the Netflix show, and it's a strong reference to the scene from Time of Contempt where Ciri exposes a fake basilisk to be a wyvern. The quest in The Witcher 3 takes place right outside Oxenfurt, and as I said, it's a fairly close reference to what happened with Ciri in the books. There are even lines that are almost identical, like referring to the basilisk as being the truest.
Cockerel eggs, you say?
Yeah, and what cocks they are. Lift their rumps like brood hens to other cocks. Eggs laid by such a cockerel must be brought to hatching by 101 venomous vipers. Then the young basilisk pecks its way out.
This basilisk is interesting, because it looks exactly like a wyvern. Young one, and ill-fed at that.
You talk nonsense, sir. This here's the most truest of basilisks.
There was once again a crowd in the books. The creature once again ended up escaping its cage and Ciri had to kill it, just as Geralt does here. And the only thing CDPR could have made even better is to have Geralt eat his signature apple, similar to how Ciri was eating something. Okay, I had a look. It was a pear, apparently. And I do recommend the books to those who haven't read them yet. There are wonderful audiobooks as well. I'd say the first 4 books will contain the most of the stuff that's important for The Witcher 3. Of course, the later ones do as well. especially if you consider Blood and Wine and Thronebreaker, so yeah, you should just read them all.
Some say we strayed from the path of virtue, and a god sent the beast to teach us a lesson.
Okay, number 6 is likely the tiniest detail in the video, but judging by my comments, there are still people who don't know about it, so let's mention it just in case. And it's the Drunk Barber in Novigrad. He is located in the outer layers of the city, in the Bits.
Looking for a barber? Well, you found one. Welcome. I'll plough and shave the gentleman's noggin for half price.
First off, he lies to you about providing his service at half price. He charges you just as much as the others. And second, the first time you visit him, he will actually give you the wrong haircut.
Give me a haircut? As long as your hands aren't too shaky. This is not what I wanted.
What do you mean, not what you wanted? Are you cut and coiffed? You are. And even can be, I'd say.
This is not the look I wanted.
And this is not the fate I wanted. I was to be an alderman in Mahakam. Instead, I shave and cut tramps and ragamuffins. Life deals what it deals. You shrug and you take it.
He works fine afterwards, though.
Oh, welcome back to you. Satisfied customer always comes by again, eh?
Give me a haircut? As long as your hands aren't too shaky.
And before we move on, let me also throw in the barber you liberate while doing Lupapion's quest in Blood and Wine.
With one more caress from the Witcher's blade, the knight's guts popped out, his breakfast betrayed.
You can start it after the tourney is done. It's not far from the Nilfgaardian embassy in Beauclair, and the unique thing about it is that after you liberate him, he alone can give you the best haircut in the whole game.
Mancomb? First I've ever encountered that name.
And I will not repeat myself because I've mentioned these things in previous videos, but let me just say that you can have several different interactions with Lupapion throughout the quest based on what happened during the tourney, based on whether you took part as Geralt or Ravix, and also in terms of the song he composes and sings later in Beauclair, based on whether Anna Henrietta is alive or dead at the point in which you did the quest. So I do recommend doing it if you're trying different things in Blood and Wine to see how they're reflected in here. Okay, now that we came to Blood and Wine, at number 7 I've got something else that took place here. It is brought to you by a viewer of mine called Nadine Elena, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and she shared something small which nevertheless I thought was rather awesome. So first off, you have to go past the point in the main story where you fight the Shaelmaar. It's relatively early on. And also, you have to kill it. She didn't mention that, but we'll get to that point. After you kill it, you have to liberate this area to the north. The point of interest here is called the Silver Salamander Inn, which is actually owned by a Nilfgaardian who has a story to tell referencing the Battle of Sodden.
My Vather, however, meaning my father, he fought at Sodden Hill.
But what's more, as the days pass, more and more people will start populating the area until the inn starts working as normal. And at that point, a conversation can be heard between these two people. I'll give you a brief rundown because there are a dozen NPCs talking over one another and you won't really hear anything. Basically, they start talking about how Geralt killed the Shaelmaar. That's why you had to kill it earlier, because if you did not, they will never have this conversation at this point. So they exchange a few lines of whether it was justified or it was a simple act of brutality, and the man says that apparently there was another Shaelmaar on the way to the palace, an intended mate for the one who got killed by Geralt. And the woman responds that apparently the supposed Shaelmaar mate never made it to the castle because it actually sank the ship it was sailing on and everyone died. Now this story, as far as I can tell, can be heard only once and only under these circumstances. I did try sparing the life of the Shaelmaar, and while these people do appear here, they never talk about anything.
Women and chops. The more you beat them, the better they are.
It's good you drove them off, Witcher.
Master Dandelion?
Now the cool part is that this dialogue basically serves as backstory to a quest you can stumble upon nearby. Not too far from here, along the river towards the castle, you can indeed find a sunken ship. There are a couple of notes there which shed even more light on the events surrounding the Shaelmaars, Dandelion's past relationship with the Duchess being at the heart of it, which is another wonderful book reference. But what's even more curious is that the Shaelmaar mate survived. It actually managed to dig up a tunnel underwater and reach the cave in which it now dwells. Sadly, other than killing it, you can't really do anything else. And finally, at number 8, I've got a couple of things to say about the Crones. Both of these are related to the end of my last video where I showed that Whispess once lived in Toussaint. First off, some people asked if it's fair to assume that she was killed and then revived somehow, perhaps by her mother. And I was under the impression that I had talked about this subject in a previous video, specifically this one. But apparently I haven't, so forgive my confusion and let me address this now. I think it is fairly likely that all crones were at some point murdered and then revived. This is hinted at in each crone's appearance. Likely the most obvious case is Vivienne. One of her eyes is clearly wounded, she wears a bloody bandage over it, and the other one is rather messed up as well. What's more, she has a noose around her neck, so it could be that her eyes were gouged out or something, and then she was hanged. Next up we've got Brues. She's wearing a beekeeper's headgear, which if you take a closer look, is actually shackled around her neck. Not sure if shackled is the proper term, but there's a metal ring holding it tight around her neck, and from that ring there's a chain protruding down and a lock on its end. So perhaps at some point she was chained by the neck to something and forced to wear that thing on her head for some reason. And I'm not so sure about this, but it also seems as though she has ropes going around her body, as though she was constrained with a rope. And the final one is of course Whispess, who covers her face with a mask. And as we know from the game, she was burned in that cave, so perhaps her face was all melted or something. Now it's a little hard to tell if that's true or if those are simply creepy elements to their appearance. And if it is true, it's even more difficult to tell how and when exactly it happened. The Crones are supposed to be ancient, so we really don't know. But still, I'd like to hear your opinion on the matter. And the second bit I wanted to touch upon was something I was asked literally a day before I posted my last video. A viewer of mine, whose name I sadly didn't write down, if you can please post a comment below to make yourself known. So he or she asked if it's possible that one of the Crones cursed Vivienne in Blood and Wine. I responded that I don't know, but I do incidentally have something in the video which might in a way support such a theory, aka the fact that Whispess once lived in Toussaint. What we know from the quest in the game is that Vivienne was cursed by what her parents describe as a forest nymph, and that apparently it considered itself the host of this location.
But a creature dwelt in the wood who envied my parents their happiness. One day it appeared before them to say the whole wood belonged to it, and they had dared to delight in something that was not theirs. They called it a nymph born of the deep woods, with no mother or father.
Now, the forest with the lake is not too close to the cave where the crone lived, but it's not too far either. So if she traveled back to Toussaint from time to time, I guess it's possible. And especially if she was in her human form, she could have been described as a forest nymph. But still, in my opinion, it's rather far-fetched and unlikely. And with that, I believe we're done. Tell me what you thought of everything I talked about, and if you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Okay, with that said, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Special thanks to the people who shared some of these details with me, and also to my supporters and YouTube members. Okay, Until the next video, stay tuned and be good.
No, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Dwarf. Never suspected he'd be so humble.
Triss? Yennefer, perchance?
Couple times. Her and the Wild Hunt.
Oh.